Mass Media.
Welcome to Beyond the Doors, where real estate pros Nate and Daniel bring you the latest market trends, the stories behind the big deals, and the inside scoop on housing politics. So, if you want to know what's really going on in the world of real estate, you're in the right place.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Doors. I'm Daniel Shkolnik from Atlas West Group. I've got my co-host and good buddy, Nate Abbo here, top producer, real estate agent for Coldwell Banker West. We're excited to be here.
What's up, Broham?
Nice to see you, man. Last time I did this without you, it was a lot harder.
Oh, yeah, well, I'll make it easier for this time. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everyone out there. It's going to be a big year in real estate, man.
Yeah, it's been a busy one already, man. Like, look at the news. It's just like so many things are happening. It's not even February yet.
1,000 miles an hour already. So part of the fun of it all.
It is, man. No, I did this without you last time, and I'll tell you, it was a little tougher, not as fun. You know, like it's really good to do these things with a friend.
No, it's good to hear from all the front lines what's going on.
Yeah. And well, welcome back, man. I'm glad you're here. I know you were dealing with a lot of challenging stuff in the family, and you stepped up in a lot of roles. So listen, I'm glad we have each other to fill a role when we need to.
Yeah, no, most definitely, man. We've got a lot of family stuff happens. We got to deal with them and roll with the punches, but the business doesn't stop. And as you know, the money doesn't stop.
No.
And it's ever changing, huh?
100%. Well, we got some things to talk about today. Two big changes. We got fires in LA and Donald Trump as president. So we got some fun talking points today.
A lot of changes coming up, especially in our region, right?
Whew, man. Yeah. Unfortunately, I think, look, it's like every disaster breeds losers and winners, and I don't mean that in the sense where I'm not compassionate, but like it's a very tough, terrible thing that happened in LA. But I think there's going to be some regions around LA that might see a boost because of it, and I don't think anyone wanted it to happen that way. But I think there's going to be a lot of change agents.
Disasters cause disruptions, and it changes economies, and it's a regional thing. But for us in San Diego, I think we're going to see a lot of change. I'm already feeling it. I'm seeing some stuff. But we've got this great city here, and so many people that want to come here and want to be here. So for the short term and the long term, I think we're going to see some big, impactful changes.
I agree, man. And by the way, I don't mean to sound like an asshole. I didn't want to say winners and losers if it's like I'm disingenuous, but like that's just what happens when chaos hits. But look, I mean, first thing I think about, like fires in LA, 12,000 structures are gone. Communities are literally wiped off the map. I mean, like getting ready for this podcast, I was kind of looking at some videos. I couldn't believe what I saw. Like there's this one reporter, I forgot what news station in LA. He during COVID, I guess he was bored. So he's going to drive down PCH, and he's got a camera in his car, and he's driving down PCH. There's all these restaurants, hotels, motels, endless houses, and he does it again now after the January 7th fires, and it's gone. Like the fire went down the hill to the ocean. Like the ocean put it out.
It's a demolition site.
It is
what it is. They demolished an entire community.
It's
fires
crazy.
Did.
First thing that comes to mind is the displacement amongst the region, right? Like 12,000 structures, loss of life. 12,000 structures probably housed, I don't know, call it 4 or 5 people in a structure. So 50,000 people, maybe more, don't have a place to live. Like, what do you think that's going to do to LA and surrounding communities?
Well, first of all, how do you accommodate that? We're already in this huge housing crisis, right? There's nothing to rent. There's nothing to buy. Now you just wipe out thousands of homes. People are going to leave LA. So I'm on that front line as a realtor, as you know.
So are you working with clients that are impacted by any of the fires in LA?
I didn't think I would, but it happened almost instantly.
So tell me about the interaction. So the house burned down. They called Nate Abbo, and what are they thinking? What do they want to do?
I'll tell you where it started. They all go to Airbnb. I own a fleet of Airbnbs.
Right.
They're furnished rentals. That's the first thing. People don't have furniture.
Right.
Their whole shit burned down, right? So they don't know what to do. So they all go to Airbnb. I probably booked 2 for sure that are still staying with me. 1 left because they opened it back up. But he came in, him and his whole family. I opened the doors wide open. I didn't price gouge. There's a lot of price gouging and stuff like that.
I don't.
Nice I'm not trying to do that. I'm not that guy. I don't want to make the headlines for that either. I'm trying to.
They're starting to file suit against people that are doing that.
So I have the Airbnb, and I got that, I've recently ran into a new Palisade fire victim who wants to rent long-term a big house that I had available. He was totally taken advantage of. He was doing some short-term rental. $9,000 the person was charging him a month for a 500 square foot rental.
But like, what are these? So like, what are these people saying? Like, they come to you, they rent an Airbnb. Like, you're obviously having dialogue with them. They're like, hey, we can't wait for this to be over so we can go back and rebuild. Or they're saying, man, we're burnt out. We don't know what to do. Like, what's the dialogue?
It's interesting because it's different. You've got definitely have some people that want to go back, but there was one particular guy, and it was interesting. This person, an affluent person, a rich guy, I could tell. He told me his house was 5,800 square foot burned down. He's got other homes around the country. But one thing he said was really interesting to me and struck me. He said, I always wanted to leave LA.
Right. This is going to be the change agent.
Yeah.
For a lot of people where it's the straw that broke the camel's back, that were already on the fence for whatever reason. And this might be the flight of like the exodus from some of these communities.
I really feel that. I don't know how they're going to get the money from the insurance and do all that, right? I think this particular person has money, so he's able to kind of work outside of the resource from his insurance. That's a whole nother topic. How are they all going to get paid?
We should talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Insurance is a big one. I mean, look, it was an issue before this. I mean,
no doubt.
Insurance was always an afterthought in real estate, and I think most deals, now it's a forefront subject. Like when we go into deals, we flush out insurance first because it can really tag you up as you get to the closing table. But yeah, no, I agree. Insurance is going to be a big issue, and payouts and so on and so forth. But like the region, so yeah, I think some people will leave, right? I mean, call it maybe 10, 15, 20. I mean, those are pretty big numbers. But then you still have a lot of people that need a house to live in or a place to go. I wonder, have you thought about how you think they're going to assimilate back into life? Because, let's say you're talking about 40,000 people. Well, it's not just their houses. Let's think about the schools, the doctors, the jobs. If your kids go to school, a couple blocks down, and now that's gone, how are the schools going to take in all those children? It's such a ripple effect, in Southern California that. I don't think the news is even talking about it. I think they're so fixated on the news flash and the fact that this happened, but the aftermath hasn't been unpacked.
So we talk about 10%, 20% won't come back. How can any of them really come back? We're talking about a decade's worth of regulation to build these homes back.
Oh,
this is nuts. We just said they're by the ocean. Dealing with the California Coastal Commission, you're not going to do that. They don't work with the cities, right? You're not going to be able. They're not going to come back. I think the most impactful part of this are the regions around these fires, and I think even those areas don't have a lot of housing available.
Right. Well, let's look. You mentioned it, time, right? Let's just say, right now, if you want to go, Palisades fire and Malibu fire are really different than Altadena, but still, let's just say right now you want to go in and rebuild. By the time you clean up the brownfield, which a lot of these fire sites are toxic, right? Firefighters have to drop chemicals, they whatever burnt, that soil isn't exactly
they're contaminated.
Clean. It's contaminated. So you can't just go and knock on the building department's door and say, okay, I want to rebuild my house tomorrow. They're going to take you through the ringers. There's talks about the state getting involved, but if you fast forward, let's look at the process today. Cleanup could be 6 months. Permitting and architecture. Sorry, let's reverse. Architecture. I mean, for you to design a home, once you find the architect, blah, 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 call it 6 to 8 months, on the best case. That's assuming the architects have the capacity. Again, the region's going to be impacted. Then you've got permitting in the city, depending on the type of house, call it 8 months to a year. So you're 2.5 years into it already. And then 12 to 18 months to rebuild. So best case, you've rebuilt in 4 years.
That's best case.
Best case. And let's say worst case, yeah, if you're dealing with CEQA or Coastal Commission, double that to get through that. So you're 4 to 8 years to rebuild your home. That's massive. And if you're the only one doing it and not everyone else is doing it, then you're repopulating a desolate community. These communities were around for 100 years, right? It's not the same. So the makeup of how you rebuild will be fundamentally changed. I wonder if the state is going to come in and maybe try to take possession of large swaths so they could sell them off to master plan developers, because the average homeowner likely doesn't have the capacity or the ability to like bring something back online. And they're not going to do it if they're the only one. Like, do you want to live in a place where like your whole street has no houses?
Absolutely not. Eminent domain may be a thing.
It might be a thing, you're right? Like, I mean, it's wild to think about it, but I don't know if there's another mechanism, because even if everything is sped up, so cut a couple of years off, like, all right, 3 years on the best case.
That's not going to happen. But yeah, they're talking about streamlining one or two out of hundreds of regulations and loopholes. Hurdles they have to go through. Right. I don't see that happening.
Do you think, what do you think this is going to do to Orange County and San Diego real estate and region? Because like you said, some will just leave. They'll say, F this, I'm going to Idaho, Wyoming, Florida, Texas, whatever. But then the other ones say, no, I want to come back home, but I want to stay close to home. So like, they're not going north because that's Santa Barbara, right? Ventura County is very different. So they're probably going to come south, right? Orange County, San Diego.
Yeah.
How do you think that will change these regions?
Well, I think San Diego, for one thing, is affordable compared to where they're coming from. So I think they're going to come here and they're going to say, wow. Or Orange County is affordable compared to Palisades, right? So I think they're going to find opportunities to buy there. And I think these people are going to establish their lives there. They're not going to pause for 5 years to go back to where they were, which already had a lot of problems. I mean, let's be honest, the city wasn't ran that well. They have their own issues. They've got pricing issues. Their kids want to buy real estate. They can't. I think this is going to open up opportunities to these other more emerging cities. And believe it or not, San Diego's an emerging city. We're not an established city, in my opinion. That we've seen this tremendous growth over the last 20 years because of that emergence. So I think you're going to see new development in these areas surrounding where the fires are. I think you're going to see investors want to build, and I think we're going to open up housing to them. And I think they're going to bring needed money to this area. You know, we always talk about, you and I are from here, and we believe in San Diego. We talk about how can San Diego continue to grow. Unfortunately, an incident like this, I think, is going to create tremendous growth for the southern region. I
mean, it's just I actually agree with you. It's sad that it had to happen under such chaos and loss of life and structure. But yeah, I mean, it's a change agent, just like COVID was a major change agent, and it jigged things around. I hope people can stabilize their lives, but we haven't even touched on a slurry of other issues like. Look at California real estate as it is. We have labor shortages, material shortages. Things are very expensive. Like when you have that much scale coming in on at one time, it's going to change those markets.
That's a really good idea right there. So we're going to need all these materials. We're going to have another supply chain shortage. That's a problem.
Well, yeah, and it's also it's not just region specific. Look at the last 60 days of American tragedies, right? We've had hurricanes in Carolinas and in the South, and you've had fires in the South and in the Southwest. So materials and labor is a nationwide issue, right? And it's interesting to see how that's going to play out, And labor pool might change too. Look, we're going to get into Trump a little bit later, but that labor market might change drastically too.
You might see a bunch of people from San Diego go to LA to try to build.
Yeah, wild stuff.
What do you think is going to happen with insurance? Insurance is a big problem. So we constantly hear on the news about how all these people, several people, hundreds of people, whatever it is, were not insured. Insurance has been a big problem for me in 2024, this past year. I'm sure it was for you. I, for one, don't feel sorry for the uninsured. There is always a policy. You have to pay for it.
You got to pay for it.
It's always there. And we never leave a property uninsured. So for those people, I think they're going to have a serious problem.
They're going to have a massive problem. I mean, look, there's always residual value in land, right? And so you look at the makeup of, Pacific Palisades real estate. I'm sure 60-70% of the value is in the land. That's expensive land, and that land might be worth less now because of the environment, right? But it's not nothing. But yeah, the uninsured are going to take a massive hit. We'll see what the federal government does, right? How they step in. Insurance industry as a whole, I'm almost scratching my head, how much harder and more expensive can it get? It's already a major underwriting issue. So it's like if it doubles, it just doubled, right? Like insurance doubled over the last 12 months.
Tripled.
Yeah, well, it's tripled over the last like 3 years, but like in the last 12 months, it's already doubled. If it does that again, I mean, it becomes a major issue, and it actually would put real estate markets on its side, right?
It could.
So,
that could be the comment that's hitting.
Yeah, I mean, again, look, it's all a matter of the balance, how bad the balance sheets affect on these insurers. Like, we don't know yet what the state and the feds are going to do. That's the big, like, what if, or like, call it the $100 billion question.
No doubt. How are they going to make the payouts? 2 words, bailout, I think, is kind of comes to mind. We're in this big bailout world. It's all tied to the bond market. These bonds, they're upside down on their bonds since the rates went up. We have a big problem. Yeah. I have a couple economic ways I think they're going to fix it. One way maybe is lowering interest rates. It kind of settles their bond market, but that's a federal decision. I don't think happens. I think what they're going to do is print and bail out.
Yeah, very, very possible. But look, we're going to get an interest rate soon. Let's take a quick little break, and then we'll circle back up.
Yeah.
There's more to come on Beyond the Doors here on the OLS Media Network. We'll be back right after this quick break.
Like we talk about in the show, there are a lot that goes into a successful podcast, more than just pushing record. Whether you're new or seasoned, if you're looking for someone to make your great show idea a reality, then we've got your back. Check us out at olismedia.com and see how we can help you push record on your next big project.
Mixed Ground Coffee, founded in 2020, is where culture builds community. Located in San Diego's Logan Heights district, this Vietnamese-owned micro-roastery brings you the world's finest beans. Mixed Grounds is proud to present I Just Wanted to Push Record on the OLS Media Network, celebrating arts, community, and culture.
From the Nest is a podcast for those who are looking to go beyond degrees, webinars, and corporate titles. We talk fundraising strategies and career experiences with a side of fun and emotion. Take a listen to the next episode of From the Nest with Charity Jen, where fundraising takes flight. Follow or subscribe at olsmedia.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Dear San Diego podcast is produced in collaboration with The Times of San Diego. Repeatedly recognized by the San Diego Press Club, The Times of San Diego delivers timely and transparent news to, for, and about America's finest city. To learn more on how you can support this trusted resource of information, visit timesofsandiego.com.
We're back. Let's pick up where we left off here with our special guest.
Hey, Daniel. Okay, I want to talk about something.
Sure.
All right, this is maybe an unpopular topic. How is this new president and his administration, how does their new policies affect real estate?
Well, first of all, when you start with it may be unpopular, if you look at the map of America, it actually might be the contrary. It might be a very popular issue. But look, Trump and real estate go hand in hand, right? Like, there's a couple of items I think that are going to be, really affected by this administration. I think in a positive way. First one, interest rates are the big, they're the boogeyman in the room. Okay, higher for longer has happened. It's here. Trump and his administration obviously can't just turn down the dial, right? Like, if you look at what's causing upward pressure on interest rates, it's inflation. It just is, right? Like, Trump's never been a fan of the Fed. We all know that. He's very vocal about it.
Love it.
But a big factor of inflation is government spending, right?
Yes, sir.
So if you look at what his administration is doing, is they're turning down government spending in a massive way, transformational way. They're reducing government payrolls, and look, they tried to put a freeze on government funding, right? Grants, loans, all that kind of stuff. That's now been peeled back for a number of reasons. It was probably a little bit too much too soon, right? But I think that will get dialed back. And so, like, when you look at all those knobs being turned at once, that perhaps might be what could curtail some inflation and then give the Fed an opportunity to continue, the downward pressure on rates, right? Like, look, yes, as of yesterday, they've hit pause, right? And we all know the job market is still moderately strong. inflation is not going closer to 2%. It's actually going the other way, right? So that's why I think this administration will attack interest rates. Like they might get on podcasts and news channels and say, we want lower rates. Well, that's great. So does probably most of America. But they can't make it happen. They've got to force it through other channels. I think that's what they're doing. I mean, what do you see?
So I'll tell you, how do you fix inflation historically? I mean, this is not the first time we've seen massive inflation. The biggest way is you cut federal spending and you cut the waste. So one of the first things Trump came in and did, and I'm a fan of this, and I don't care who loses their jobs, they're going to cut the government by 2/3. First thing you got to do, boom. Biden should have done that right away, right? That's what you got to do. Then you have to raise the interest rates above the inflation rate. They never did. We saw higher interest rates, 5%, 6%. Our inflation rate was 8%, 9% at the time. They never did what they needed to do. They were working on this soft landing. For me, it just means a longer nightmare, right? This whole soft landing thing, which did not work. So I think higher interest rates are a good way to tackle inflation. That's why, I think it may be hard to lower interest rates right now, but I think you cut the government. I think you cut regulation. One big, huge way you tackle this whole giant issue is energy. So he's in here. One of the first things he's going to do is deregulate and drill and bring our energy prices down, which is one of the biggest taxes to the middle class. I think that alone is going to be very impactful. I think it's going to help my apartment buildings. I think it's going to make the renter market strong. I think it's going to make people have more money in their pocket.
So I guess what you're saying is you think that like solving affordability will help tame inflation. And what's your and I guess tie those two together for me.
Well, I think people are going to have more money in their pocket, right? They're going to be in a better position to spend. I think they're going to be in a better demeanor to invest.
Right. But I guess that could also perpetuate more inflation.
It could. It's a double-edged sword. Well,
I mean, that's why it's not an easy fix. No. But like that could also perpetuate inflation. But I guess it's empowering the people and reining in the government. I think that's kind of what we're talking about, is like that might be what tames it a little bit, right? And then like maybe the rates, it's clear rates aren't going down, right? Like Fed just came out yesterday, they've paused, right? We had 100 bips in compression last year, but yet the Treasury took off like a hockey stick. Like Treasury's at an all-time high. It's insane. Yep. And that's because of the inflation, right? But part of it is also the affordability. It's like everyone's just, any money they have, they're spending, right? There isn't a way to invest. Because like maybe if there was an ability where if people had more, if everyone had a little more money in their pocket and they didn't have to spend it on groceries, they could then invest it. And maybe that would help tame inflation, but also prop up net worths and overall, live like quality of living, right?
Yeah, that's the whole idea. I think this is kind of an idea I had. I'd like your opinion on this. So we're talking about cutting the government by 2/3, going from 300, whatever it is, groups, whatever, inside the
government
agencies to 100. That should mean jobs losses in the 100,000s, right?
Oh yeah.
Rates are impacted by the jobs reports. So, and jobs reports are highly influenced by government jobs, right?
Right. No, 100%.
So that totally has been, we've got these great job reports. Well, 90% of them are government jobs. Well, that's why we're going to keep interest rates where they are. So now we're going to see this big, huge job loss wave happen of hundreds of thousands of job losses. Then our next report comes in and we've got this terrible jobs report. Does that impact rates?
I don't think right away, but like ultimately, the job market cooling and and being in a healthy environment will suppress inflation. People won't be spending, right? Now everything Trump's trying to do with drilling and putting more money in people's pockets, that will put more cash in people's pockets, but perhaps they're not going to spend it on common goods. They'll be able to invest it or save it. And that will change the paradigm, and then that will give the Fed an ability to continue lowering rates, and ultimately, the 10-year, the Treasuries can react to that. Because what happened in the last year is Treasury said, "Oh, inflation is getting under control. Let's turn down the knob." Well, Wall Street and Main Street called bullshit and didn't believe it, and that's why we see the market the way it is, right? And so it's a challenging environment to operate in. But like one other thing we should talk about is like interest rates. Well, we had them all-time lows. Now they're at I wouldn't say all-time. I mean, yes, there was higher rates in the 80s, but like they're up there. Like for the last 20 years, they're call it all-time highs right about now. I mean, working with your clients and knowing how real estate trades and at what price points, when we say lower rates, like what in your mind, what would be an optimal rate where the market is working efficiently?
5% would be amazing.
Yeah.
If I can see a 5% rate to the consumer, I think that'll be a fueling factor.
Right. I mean, fortunes are won and lost over 50 bips.
Yes, yes, sir.
Like the difference on 5.5 or 6%, put that on, let's use $10 million, right? That's 50 bips is $500,000 a year. That's massive money.
It's mega money. And we're not talking about small numbers. I mean, we're not talking about our parents' price points. We're talking about our current price points. So we're talking about these higher interest rates.
Right.
Let's just go dial it in locally to San Diego, where a house was $100,000. 2% wasn't a big deal. That same $100,000 house is $1 million now.
100%.
They're done.
Right. You're applying it to the 800-pound gorilla, not to the little mouse. Right. It just it's sheer numbers.
And I'll tell you, the idea of this home ownership and this dream, I think, is dwindling down because of interest rates. So I think if we can figure out a way to get rates down, it fuels the market in a happy where everyone's happy.
Yeah. It'll also it's also gonna increase the propensity and the velocity of deals. Like no one can afford to sell, so everyone's equity rich.
Yes,
because they can't afford to sell.
It's that perfect median, right?
Yeah.
That's the same thing goes for businesses and small business owners that are getting killed by these higher interest rates. It's a very marginal world that we live in. Especially coming from a 2% interest rate, these companies are making. Giant companies, they only need 1% to profit. Right. So when you go up by that 1-2%, that's the whole industry.
It eviscerates people. It does. Aside from interest rates, this administration is going to have a pretty big impact on taxes, right? Real estate and taxes go hand in hand. First thing I'm thinking is, and tracking, frankly, is bonus depreciation. You work with a lot of investors.
Yeah.
Is that a topic that they're talking about? I mean, are they making investment decisions based on bonus depreciation coming back?
Absolutely. Even my liberal friends and my liberal clients, they're lower tax incentives help everything.
Right. So like it's kind of like the dollar is party friendly, right? It doesn't matter blue, red, or purple. Like everyone understands that the taxes can change the economics of a deal.
Look at your industry. Look at your building industry. You need incentives to build. Otherwise, you can't bring housing here.
Well, incentives, yes. I mean, subsidies and incentives are different. Incentives, I would say,
tax incentives.
Tax incentive.
Yes.
Yeah, it sure as hell helps when you're planning long term, right? And you're in an illiquid market. No, for sure. Because look, bonus depreciation just went down to 40%.
Huge.
Right? It was at 100% 3 years ago. So the same deal, the same deal, you have to look at it through a completely different lens. Right. And it's got to have that much more juice in it, which is also not helping the affordability issue.
No, not at all. One thing I want to talk about, and Trump mentioned this, I don't know if it's going to affect yet, is they're going to make use or sell these empty, vacant government buildings. And I just read in New York, they're successfully turning them into apartment buildings, which I think could be another big factor that helps with housing.
Yeah.
Maybe something a guy like you is going to start getting into. But the deregulation and incentivizing and tax cuts, I think that's what's going to drive kind of this idea of fixing this problem.
Right. Also, the other thing that we're tracking is this year qualified business income is set to sale. So, like, if you make $1 million a year through your business, right now you get a 20% write-off. So you pay tax on $800K instead of $1 million. Well, that's supposed to sunset. So Trump's supposedly going to renew those tax laws. We'll see. But I think that's going to affect people as well, right? Because what you're seeing is a sunset of a lot of tax laws, right? You've got high interest rates, sunset of bonus depreciation, sunset of qualified business income. So like, it's almost like, it's like the perfect squeeze. So do you think we're going to see bonus depreciation bill come through Congress this year?
You know, I hope so. I hope we get every tax break we can get. I think, I don't know why people want to fight tax breaks, right? Why do we want to fight tax breaks? Just get rid of income tax, get rid of all of it. You know, I think empower the people. Let us come in. Let's make the money ourselves and let them tax the other countries. I like Trump. I like his policies. You know what I mean? We got the biggest GDP in the world by 10 times. You know, the world needs us. They need this consuming market.
I think your next role is Nate Abbo, Coldwell banker, realtor, and politician.
I know, man. I mean, I'm like righteous sometimes. I'm extra righteous in the morning. So
there we go. Yeah,
you know what I mean. But I going back to this whole president we're talking about, unpopular. I don't need any social advice from my president. I need good fiscal policy.
Fiscal policy. Yeah.
That's all I need. I was raised good. I was raised properly. If they want to talk about all social stuff, we don't need to point the finger at the social stuff. I think as a community, we should embarrass somebody who's doing something that's socially wrong or racist or whatever they're saying. The president just needs to give me lower taxes and make the economy better.
Yeah,
and make us have better lives.
That's going to happen.
It's going to be very hard. They're going to fight him all the way through, but you see him coming out. He's talking about, executive order after executive order, and he's just nonstop. And it's kind of reminds me of the birth of this nation and kind of what we need to do and creating just the best environment for long after he's gone.
Look, he's a real estate guy, so I'm sure real estate will get a lift through policy. I think the biggest one is going to be bonus depreciation. I think that's going to be a big wind in our sails, which we could use given where rates are. Right, we'll take whatever we can get.
And it's not like, I mean, if you've got businesses, it's tough right now. The spending's tough, everything's tough. So to get any kind of incentive is huge.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I mean, man, we can keep going on this all day long. It's been a great conversation. We should do a follow up on this, like in 6 months.
Yes.
All right. Here was our crystal ball. Like, were we murky? Were we clear? Like how spot on were we? You know, it's going to be an interesting 6 months ahead of us.
No, most definitely. I'm optimistic. I was glad to have this conversation. Maybe share with our viewers a little bit about kind of guys in our positions and kind of where we think this is all going. So this was kind of a good topic. I hope some people listen, and I was excited to kind of bring this message out there, but.
So look, our hearts go out to the people suffering in LA. Obviously, I mean, it's just a tragedy, but it sounds like we've got a consensus here that this administration will probably be good for real estate, right? Both for first-time buyers, investors, and just the industry in general, right? We've been kind of hit left and right over the last couple of years, and so maybe those change agents will help lift real estate momentum and velocity.
If you guys have any comments or want to drop some information on anything we had to say, you guys can. I'm always going to post all of our podcasts on our social media. I'm Nate Abbo Homes on Instagram. Daniel, where can they find you?
They can find me at daniel@atlaswestgroup.com.
I'm very accessible. Drop us a message. I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking.
Yep. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Doors. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. To hear other episodes or read the associated blogs, visit olismedia.com, and be sure to follow the hosts on Instagram at Nate Abbo Homes and at atlaswestgroup.com. The guest views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are their own. The information presented is for general information purposes only and is not intended to be legal advice. Beyond the Doors is produced in studios in San Diego, California, and Tijuana, Baja California. Olis Media is an IVC media company.
Olis Media.